The Death Penalty by Abby Pallant. George Stinney was accused of killing two white girls, Betty and Mary, ages 11 and 7. The bodies of the girls were found near George and his parents' house. In a segregated town in 1944, the police didn't start looking for a white killer, but they did indeed target a 14-year-old black boy and pointed him out to be the meanest and cruelest kid in town. During his trial until the day of his execution, he always carried a Bible in his hands, claiming for his innocence. George was not allowed to see his parents for 81 days before his execution and was trapped in a solitary cell. He was heard alone without the presence of a parent or a lawyer. 70 years after his execution, he was proved innocent by a judge in South Carolina. The child was innocent. George was 14. This is me, Abby Pallant, when I was 14. I could not imagine going through what George and thousands of others have been through and still do go through, never mind at the prime age of 14.
Hi, I'm here with Bella Galloway. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
What is your opinion on profiling when it comes to the justice system in our country?
I think it's awful, but I think that it happens all the time, and something needs to be done to change it.
More than half of all wrongfully convicted death row ex-offenders are black. 61.1% are people of color.
In what ways could one be profiled, do you think?
Well, unfortunately, I think that African American people are profiled a lot more than white people when it comes to just minor things like drug usage, things like speeding tickets.
Yeah.
Some, but not limited to, of some of the ways that people get profiled unjustly are gender, race, one's economic standings, or even their ethnicity. One in every 10 people have been wrongfully accused and put to death. When I think of this sad and wrong statistic, I think of 10 of my closest friends. Try and do the same. Imagine if one of them had been wrongly accused and put to death for a crime that they simply did not commit.
A lot of people don't know that obviously race is a big thing in our world today, as it shouldn't be. However, gender, age, and social class, as well as one's even wealth and their ethnicity. How do you think that that plays into it?
I actually have a personal experience. I used to drive a 2003 Honda minivan. It was not a very nice car.
Okay.
And I was pulled over once for not doing anything.
Okay.
And I think that once they saw I was like a teenage white girl, they let me go.
Yeah.
But maybe if I was somebody else, they wouldn't have.
Right. And I feel like that's terrible, and I feel like some people are definitely blinded to that fact.
Absolutely.
Do you know anything about the death penalty laws in other countries and about how other people are racially biased in those countries?
I don't know about the death penalty in other countries, but I assume that people are racially biased in other countries. Probably not as prevalent in America. It's a big issue here.
Other authors, Enever and Cullen, claimed that African Americans who distrust the government officials should be more likely to oppose capital punishment than whites who similarly distrust the government. They add that previous studies have shown that public opinion on national policy issues is shaped by distrust and opposition to government power.
But do you think that someone who trusts the government is more likely to agree with the death penalty or disagree?
I would say agree with the death penalty.
Yeah.
Enever and Cullen also discuss the deeply rooted past of racial conflict in the United States and creates a conversation as well. Enever and Cullen bring forth the history of racially motivated actions in our country by stating, for the purposes of this research, we raise the possibility that the legacy of past racial conflicts, particularly those that included racially motivated lynchings, the racist application of the death penalty, and the racist support for the government officials, has profoundly affected the attitudes of African Americans towards the death penalty. We need to come to terms with the reality of white supremacy in the United States and the underlying impact that it can have on our future generations. If we keep going at the rate that we're going, when the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, Jacob McKen states that public support for the death penalty can be expected to expand after increases in economic inequality, and a growth in executions ought to occur after economic inequality increases. Allen and Campbell joined the conversation by stating that conservative parties face difficulties because they favor the prosperous. Even during a difficult time like COVID-19, they still were against using money. The death penalty is discussed on all different platforms and in a lot of different conversations. However, even though the topic has a sense of normalcy surrounding it, people do not realize how extremely it is disregarded. In addition, many people do not realize the effect that political affiliation can have on one's opinion on the death penalty. Many people also fail to notice that the news that they are watching on their TV every day, as well as the information that they are feeding themselves from the internet, also impacts the way that they agree or disagree with current events. Race has not only become a prime aspect in conversation when it comes to those being convicted, but now researchers are beginning to see a trend in the correlation between those who agree or disagree with capital punishment. This trend has been emphasized by Jacobs and Kent, who completed their research to infer that the probability of a legal death penalty is greater where Black populations are most sustainable. Jacob and Kent also stated that white support for capital punishment is associated with racist views. This highlights the discrimination that our laws are being built upon. Jacob and Kent further their research by stating that public support for capital punishment can be expected to expand after growth in the non-white population, and executions should increase after the expansions of non-white populations. Bay also includes in his research and adds to the conversation, stating that citizens of several European countries, including France, Great Britain, and Spain, were more likely to support capital punishment if they were intolerant of racial and ethnic minorities. This brings forth the comparison of death penalties and laws and norms in various different countries around the world. Hood, another credible author who researched a global perspective of the death penalty, also described the impact the death penalty can have on countries in regards to economic and political pressure. Some believe that abolishing the death penalty provides that country with a blatant political advantage. This research provides further insight into the conversation of the impact that political affiliation and/or the economy has on executions.
Do you think that one's political affiliation has a correlation to their opinion on the death penalty?
I do. I think that, Republicans are more pro-death penalty. Liberals tend to be anti-death penalty.
Okay.
Some like to believe that institutionalizing the death penalty would lower crime and especially homicide rates. However, that is not true. Studies have shown that homicide rates do not decrease with the presence of the death penalty. People need to become more educated and form their own opinions based on facts and the rights that we deserve as human beings. Even though gender, race, economic status, and ethnicity can affect one's opinion on the death penalty.
So what is your opinion on hiding the identity of the suspect? There's a trial and someone's on trial and the death penalty could be in question. What is your opinion on either hiding the identity or having the jury so they don't know the age, they don't know the race, they don't know the ethnicity of the person? What do you think that?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it would be a big step in the justice system, but
I think that would help tremendously.
One should not be criminalized based on these things.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Do you think that,
Okay.